Hey guys, I'm Alex McComb. That's producer Thomas Irons behind the camera. We're here for a special edition of Radio Western on the road or in the sky here at the 2026 CFL Combine here in Edmonton at the Commonwealth Rec Center. Today is the testing portion of this week's events. We're going to go through each test and what they mean for Western's Keegan O'Neil and Jerome Rancourt. So in the world of combines, height and weight is really just a prerequisite for everything else. Even though a player can't really control something like height, it does serve as a lens of expectation through which scouts and coaches will evaluate every other test after that. Now let's talk about the 40-yard dash. For positions like Keegan and Jerome, where they're offensive linemen or H-backs, fullbacks, tight ends, it's really going to be more about that 10-yard split, which is going to be the first 10 yards of the 40-yard dash. This is going to measure how quickly someone can move their mass with acceleration and burst. For offensive linemen like Keegan, coaches will get a sense of how quick he can pull from his guard stance and sprint laterally to lead block. Quicker 10-yard splits mean less defensive penetration in the backfield. For H's like Jerome, his split can determine his collision force and leverage when he meets an edge defender on a power run, or creating separation while he runs a route against a linebacker. A full 40-yard dash means a bit more for Jerome than it means for Keegan because Jerome may be expected to stretch the field as a tight end. Now let's talk about the vertical jump. For power positions like Keegan and Jerome, it's less about how high you can get your head in the air. It's more about measuring instantaneous lower body power. How much force can you apply in a short amount of space? How much lower body force can you generate in a split second? For Keegan, this applies to his explosion out of his stance to wash out an interior D lineman. For Jerome, it's about having that pop to block a defender in a phone booth as a fullback, or actually jumping and high pointing a ball as a pass catcher. So if the vertical jump measures upward explosiveness, the broad jump measures horizontal power and balance. For the power positions that Keegan and Jerome play, this is arguably the most important drill for predicting success in the trenches. It measures how well they can transfer energy from their lower body into forward momentum while maintaining their balance, like blocking a defender and throwing him out of the club. The three-cone drill is one of my favorites. It measures short area agility, body control, and bend. While the 40-yard dash tells scouts how fast a player is, the three-cone tells them how well that player can actually play football. For Keegan and Jerome's positions, this drill is about the transition from power to fluid movement. If a guard or a fullback can sink their hips and change direction without losing momentum, they become a nightmare for defenders to track. The shuttle, also known as the 5-10-5, is probably the most football-specific agility drill at the Combine. The 40-yard dash measures speed in a vacuum, but the shuttle measures lateral quickness and the ability to start, stop, and re-accelerate. For Keegan and Jerome, if they have heavy legs like me and producer Thomas and can't lower their center of gravity to touch the lines, they won't survive on a CFL field. Now let's talk about the bench press. Even for a bigger guy like me, I'm not too high on the bench. It's more of a test to see if someone's been in the weight room enough, someone has muscular endurance. It's not that translatable to the football field because the movements are not the same. You don't take on a blocker like this. You don't block like this. You block like this. So the bench press is a bit overrated when it comes to testing. I've seen offensive linemen get single-digit numbers and throw me 10 yards that way, and I've seen DBs and receivers get 20 plus, but they can't get off the ball. All right, that's it for the testing portion of this week's CFL Combine. I hope you learned a thing or three about biomechanics and football. For Radio Western, I'm Alex. That's producer Thomas behind the camera. We'll see you soon for some more Combine action.